I was with a group of friends tonight at dinner, and people that didn't know the WNBA were like asking, well, why? Like, what does she do? And we said, well, she makes passes and takes shots that nobody else in the sport does. So she's a bit of a, it's like when Tiger Woods came on the tour, like he drove it further. He's long putting was better. He looked like a football player in the red shirts. Like he just was different than every other golfer you grew up with. And people like unique and different.
A recent analysis by a finance professor highlights Caitlin Clark's staggering economic influence on the WNBA in just her rookie season. Despite playing for the worst-performing team in the league, Clark was responsible for 26.5% of the WNBA's total economic activity. Her value extends well beyond the basketball court, evidenced by her 8-year, $128 million endorsement deal with Nike. The numbers behind her debut are nothing short of extraordinary. League merchandise sales soared by 2,034% due to a first-year player from a Midwestern university playing on the league's weakest roster. Perhaps most remarkable is the transformation of the Indiana Fever's franchise valuation, which jumped from $90 million to $340 million after just 40 games with Clark on the court. That valuation is on par with what NBA teams were worth a decade ago, and it happened within the WNBA's much shorter season. So here's my question. Somebody at the dinner said, well, eventually there'll be another Caitlin Clark, and my response was, will there? I mean, is there another Steph Curry? Sure, there are plenty of players who can shoot threes, but that doesn't mean they're Steph. I don't think you can duplicate what Clark brings to the game. And let's be honest here, there are simply more elite male athletes globally than female ones, just by sheer numbers. So there is no second Steph Curry, and there may not be another player who plays quite like Clark. In my opinion, she has the potential to become a billion-dollar athlete. Clark's appeal comes from her one-of-a-kind style of play. She makes passes and takes shots that simply aren't found anywhere else in women's basketball. Her uniqueness reminds us of Tiger Woods in his early days, long drives, incredible putting, and a build and swagger that set him apart from every other golfer of that era. People are naturally drawn to someone who redefines the mold. That leads to the broader question, can another player like Clark really emerge? Just like there hasn't been another Steph Curry, despite the league being filled with great shooters, Clark's game feels unrepeatable. The global talent pool for elite female athletes is smaller than it is for men, making someone like Clark even more rare. She may very well be a once-in-a-generation figure. She's the kind of player who can do many different things on the court, but what stands out most is the Steph Curry-like impact she's had on the WNBA. It's really pretty simple. If you can shoot like she does, and stay in constant motion the way Steph does, defenses will inevitably overreact to your shooting threat. We already see this happening with Caitlin. Just like with Steph, her movement alone changes the dynamics of the offense. Aaliyah Boston, her teammate, is getting consistent, easy mid-range buckets because of how defenders are forced to respond to Clark. In modern basketball, there are really two kinds of players who dominate and draw huge viewership, those with extreme vertical athleticism, like young LeBron James or Anthony Edwards, and those who are elite shooters. These are the players who grab attention and drive ratings. Today's most successful players generally fall into two categories: big, powerful playmakers like LeBron, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic, and unstoppable sharpshooters like Steph Curry. Clark clearly belongs in the second group, bringing that same Curry-like influence into women's pro basketball. Her constant off-ball movement and ability to hit from range create chaos for defenses. Defenders are forced to step up when she comes off screens, and that pulls them away from the basket, opening the paint. It creates 4-on-3 scenarios that result in easy scoring opportunities for her teammates. Here's what happens. Every time someone sets a screen for Caitlin, her defender jumps up to challenge her, because if they don't, she's going to shoot, and she's going to make it. That overreaction creates a spaced-out floor and an open lane, which is what you see constantly with Steph in Golden State. Even though Steph isn't the same dead-eye shooter he was back in 2021, his off-ball movement still opens up the floor and generates offense. Caitlin hasn't even started hitting her shots at the rate she's capable of yet this year, but everyone still guards her as if she's already at that elite level. To me, that's proof of concept. If you can shoot like Steph and move like him, you force defensive breakdowns. That's what makes her such an effective offensive engine already, and she's only in her second year. Movement shooters like Clark unlock so many offensive options. She's must-watch TV and draws in viewers even during otherwise busy sports periods. Interestingly, she doesn't always get the benefit of favorable officiating, just like Shaquille O'Neal in his prime, who absorbed constant fouls without consistent calls, or Nikola Jokic, who regularly complains about defenders bouncing off of him. The league still seems to be figuring out how to officiate Clark fairly. Let's give the WNBA some credit. They didn't anticipate the tidal wave of popularity Clark would bring, and early on they made some scheduling mistakes. But they've since adapted. Now all her games are televised, and she's the centerpiece of the league's promotional efforts. Officials may hesitate to call too many fouls in her favor, fearing backlash from existing players who feel she's already receiving too much attention. But the reality is, she doesn't always get the star treatment you might expect. And neither does Steph Curry, for that matter. Both baseball and the WNBA have long felt ignored compared to the NFL, NBA, and college football. This sense of being overlooked can turn into resentment, especially when one player suddenly dominates the headlines. We saw the same thing with Tiger Woods early in his career, as golf media constantly focused on him to the exclusion of everyone else. Bryce Harper experienced similar backlash from teammates in MLB due to excessive media attention. There's clearly an ongoing adjustment happening across the WNBA, everything from marketing and promotions to how officials call games, to how defenses try to guard her. Her presence on national TV has pulled in a wave of new viewers who now appreciate the sport more broadly. Players like Nafisa Collier have gained new fans thanks to the exposure they've received in games involving Clark. So no, she doesn't quite get the favorable whistle that some assume. And neither does Steph. But again, I give the WNBA credit. They simply didn't realize the scope of her popularity at first. They didn't anticipate the magnitude of the Caitlin Clark tsunami. And that's understandable, you don't know what you don't know. Since then, though, they've done a much better job. These days, every time I turn on the WNBA or see a promotional ad, she's front and center. Maximizing Caitlin Clark's visibility on television is a smart marketing move. In fact, the best way to promote other WNBA players is to showcase them against Clark. Viewers will tune in no matter what, and that spotlight helps raise the profile of everyone else on the court. That's how you build passionate fans who drive media attention and raise the overall popularity of the league. Clark is acting as the WNBA's growth accelerator, the same way Conor McGregor impacted the UFC. McGregor brought in casual fans who stayed to discover other fighters. That's how real marketing works. Use your biggest star to grow the entire ecosystem. And it's worth noting, the quality of women's basketball has drastically improved over the last few years. We now have generations of female athletes who grew up with better support systems, better nutrition, advanced training, and more financial investment in their development.